Hi everyone, this is Juan Carlos Ojano from the Film Experience, and we are here to discuss The Missing, the Philippines' official submission for Best International Feature Film at the 96th Academy Awards. Joining me are writer-director Carl Joseph Papa and one of its lead actors, Gio Gahol. Hi guys!
Hello, good
Hello, thanks for
evening
having
or good
us. Good.
morning.
Let's just start with something light. How did you find out that the film was going to be the official submission for both you guys?
Actually, we just submitted the Film Academy of the Philippines did an open call for any film that who would want to be submitted or and can do a campaign. Um, then we submitted there. We haven't got a message from them. I guess for a month. And then I just found out that they are deliberating. And the night, the morning after seeing that post on Twitter, we got an email saying that we were the ones selected. After that, I messaged Gio saying that, yeah, we got in.
So
Yeah,
Gio, was
so
it also
eh,
the first time that you found out?
yes, well, only through Carl, and then because we already knew, no, before they made the announcement.
Yeah, we,
Okay, so they already knew, and Carl informed me naman ahead of time, and then I don't know how did I feel. I guess I was. It's different. I think the feeling was different from finding out from Carl, and then when they actually made the announcement. Um, I felt it more when Carl told me. But like, it was more. I think it was more exciting that I knew something that the rest of I don't know the rest of the country didn't know yet. But it was special because being part of this film. I thought that the wins that we got from Cinemalaya was already the cherry on top of the experience of being part of this film. But being first of all being considered to be the official entry and actually becoming the official entry of the country, the Academy Awards is just uh, it's just out of this world. I think.
Yeah, definitely. And looking back at the history now of the submissions, like it's quite exciting to see. This is the first animated feature that we submitted for the Oscars. Yeah, so it's quite remarkable, and a lot of people were excited for this film, and a lot of people are actually excited because of many things. One of them is we'll talk more later, but to get more into the film, when I watched this twice, um
wow.
it hurt more in the second time because I already knew what's gonna happen. The signs were leading there, for example. But I know the thing was when I was first watching it, I already knew it was a personal story, even though I haven't even done my research. I just watched it as
Blind as
um
possible.
yeah, I didn't want because there was a lot of buzz. I know some people in the production. Well, flex. But so with that being said, this is your third animated feature and your fourth feature in
Yes,
general.
yes.
um like timing is everything in making films. Like this is a specific time in your career, time in the Philippines, time in cinema. I would like to ask maybe like a two-part question.
Sure.
Why this story, and why are you telling it now?
The story came to me around 2018, 2019. It was based off from personal experience, and then when I wrote it down, I, I I just wanted to write something to cope with what happened because the guy who did sexual advance to me when I was young is already dead. So there's nothing I could do. So that's my starting point for writing the film. But at first, it started from a place of anger because there's nothing I could do when if I look back on the earlier drafts of the script, it's a different story and it's a different version of what you have seen. But sitting down and reading it again and again and doing interviews of other victims of sexual abuse and rape, I guess it kind of mellowed me down, or it kind of tamed the story a bit because the goal of the film shifted from just being a coping mechanism to becoming more of encouraging people to reclaim their voice or finding their truths and telling their truths and telling their stories. So So that's it. And then actually I pitched the story as early as 2019. Um the earlier drafts of the film, but during the pandemic I was able to sit down and look through the film. I looked through the script again and then did a lot of revision on it. And then I just pitched. It came to a point that around 2021, late 2021, that I knew that the story was done. There was nothing I could add more to it other than if I ask people to read it and then do a comment on it. But for me, it was already done and it's ready to be shown. Because whenever I make films, I try to fit to put the shoes of other people. Like for Manang Bidding, I did want to get in the shoes of my mom, and then for Pagisan it was for my grandparents. So this one I'm just putting my own shoes. This is my story and this is the story of other victims. And I think that this is high time to tell this kind of story in this kind of way. Well, it's not entirely new, but I guess it's still here in the Philippines quite a taboo topic. So it just so happened that yeah, I'm ready to tell this now. I'm ready to tell the world what happened and encourage people to talk.
Yeah, it is a subject matter that is pressing. Quite did some research, and I'm not sure when was the statistic that I got, but there are like millions of children that are victims of sexual abuse every year, like 7 million, and 33% are from incest. And
Mm.
the fact that it's still a taboo kind of empowers the perpetrators to even do it more because no one's going to talk about it yet. So yeah, first of all, thank you for that. Yeah, it is really moving, and we'll discuss more about how you did it later. But Gio, I want to pivot quite a bit. 2023, quite a year. I mean, aside from this film received critical acclaim. You also got back to theater. With Laro and Peta sa Walang Aray, which I love so much, too much. So how did the story find its way to you, or was it the other way around?
Okay, how do we? I'll backtrack. This is based on, of course, Carl's account of how he found me. So he's. I think the first time he saw me was in Sila Sila back in 2019. Oh no! There's another film, but I think that's when he really paid attention when he saw me in Sila Sila in
Ah, yeah.
2019. Yeah, and then
Because you were
after.
great in that movie. So just
Oh,
saying.
thank you.
I agree.
So that was in 2019, and then in 2022, last year, it's in Cinemalaya last year. I was featured in one of the entries in the full length feature, which was Bula sa Langit. And he actually attended the gala screening of our film. I even have his photo taken with me after the screening. And then I think it was a week after, I want to say a week after that, someone messaged me from Project 8 asking if I was interested to be part of a Cinemalaya entry for the following year. And then I didn't know Carl yet. I mean, he didn't really introduce himself when he asked to take a photo with me. But then when we finally touched base and he was gonna send me the script to read through it, he sent a photo, that photo that he took when he watched Bulasa Lang. It's like, oh, okay, you watched, thank you. And then I don't know what it is about me and these scripts that land on my lap that have to do with a lot of mental health issues. I guess you attract what you are. No, I moment of vulnerability here. I also struggle with my personal mental health struggles, and I think this is the universe basically telling me that I can use it. I don't take advantage. I'm taking advantage of the fact that I am well aware of these specific struggles, but I think it also helps me embrace my own issues. That it is part of my reality. So from Bula sa Langit, which dealt with PTSD, to this one, which deals with dissociative disorder caused by childhood trauma. Of course, in ITI MAPUKPUKAW, in The Missing, I'm on the flip side. I'm not the one who has who's the stress or has anxiety or my trauma. So it was hurting being on that side of the story this time around. I like being able to picture things in my head before jumping into it. So just reading the script, I don't know if this is verbatim, but I told Carl that the story was just really it's visually on point. Like there is no other way to tell this story except how he wrote it. And there was so much strength in the simplicity of the language that was being used. But the imagery was so rich that it doesn't need to be complicated anyway. It definitely cuts across s- like so many levels of understanding.
Just to follow up, did it present a different challenge for you as an actor, knowing that this would be an animated film?
Just generally the body language, and then there's just so much um there's a density to how you hear people talk to you, and I wasn't gonna have that in this film. And then I've never done an animated film. Again, going back to being a very visual person. Yeah, because when we were shooting in a studio with nothing but green screen, and again as a visual performer, it's hard also not having visual cues like where you are, how far away like a certain part of this world is from where you are, or how near. So that was very challenging, but I think I just really held on tight to um, Carlo Aquino, not literally, but I mean the important part anyway in the story is the connection between Carlo and Eric. So, and thankfully, like Carlo Aquino is a very present actor, even though he couldn't talk. Like just looking deeply into his eyes already provided more than enough information for me to, get through the scene without fumbling because of the lack of a lot of many things that should have been there.
Yep. So yeah. So Carl, given that you have these three great actors whose works I'm lucky enough to have seen, and yeah, with this story and how emotional it is, how heavy it is, was it an easy decision for you to say that animation is the way to go for this story?
Uh,
And specifically having two styles, rotoscoping and hand drawn animation.
yes.
Was it an easy decision?
Yes, actually. When I wrote the film, I knew from the get-go that it's going to be animation and it was going to be rotoscope. One thing about rotoscoping is that you sort of get confused whether things are real or not. So that complements the mental state of Eric, the protagonist in the film. So I wanted a visual style that would complement the film, not just in terms of visuals, but also audio. But for the animation parts, well, again, what I said a while ago, rotoscoping brings a certain feel of confusion. You question whether things are real or not. And then for the 2D hand-drawn animation, we presented it in a way that it feels like it's very childish and nostalgic because we wanted to evoke a feel wherein it feels like it's a memory of a kid or a memory of someone or a certain part of your memory that is stuck in your childhood. So I knew from the get-go that it was going to be animation.
With that being said, it unfolds in a way that, having watched it going in blind, I didn't know exactly what I was gonna get. So, but given the once you reveal the actual nature of the story, what's going on, how did you make sure, or what was your strategy in making sure that um things or hints were falling into place before we get to the reveal? Because for me, it didn't feel like a gotcha moment, and I think there's a thin line between having a reveal that just makes more sense and would be more emotionally powerful, and I think, a twist that would verge on emotional exploitation. How did you map things out so that you were bringing in these details? That's why my second watch was actually more painful than the first, to be honest. How did you build that up in terms of
Um,
narrative?
in terms of the narrative, I just wanted to make sure that it was gradually being revealed. When you're trying to remember something from your childhood or something that's in the past that's kind of buried, you don't remember things from the get go. Like, oh, I remember everything from what happened, but it's more of whatever is happening right now, present in your present time, whatever is happening right now, it kind of triggers you to remember things from the past. So that's what I did. There is a very long sequence of flashback towards the middle of the film, which I think wherein a young Eric goes to the alien planet. I put that there because I knew that that was the moment where Eric is at his most vulnerable. And then I revealed more as I go along, and then I pull back. I don't actually, we didn't use the term sexual abuse. We didn't use the term rape or what. We didn't actually let people see what actually happened to Eric, but it's more of implied. Um, it's um, it's just the balance of pushing and pulling of what to show and what to tell the audience. I hope that answers this.
Yeah, because it is a balance that one, as a storyteller, there is a balance to be had in making sure that your vision is, it makes sense, but at the same time
Mhm.
you're, and all that. With
Actually,
that,
can I share something?
go ahead.
Actually, not just with the story and with the style, as you,
Mm-hmm.
I think you will notice in the 2D hand drawn
Mm-hmm.
animation. It also plays around whether things are more jittery. If
Mm-hmm.
it's more jittery, it's more fake. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
those are my visual cues. Also for the music and the sound, the music starts off playful, and then as the story progresses, it feels darker and more somber. We wanted to make it feel like, especially for those funny scenes, we wanted to make it feel like it is funny, but you're gonna question whether it's really funny or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
everything has to progress, not only the story, visuals. It also we also include the sound and the music, even with the acting.
Yeah.
Carlo Aquino gets progressively agitated as
Yeah.
the story progresses. So go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, because on the second watch, you just see the small details that hit you hard, lines that are almost even cut mid delivery of line, but then once you already know what's happening, I there's an identification that is quite horrifying. You already mentioned Carlo Aquino. I think it gives one of his best performances, and he doesn't even have a full face to do that. But there is this beautiful arc of the central character. Gio, how challenging is it to to not have the benefit of knowing, at least your character, not knowing what the person is going through? Like, you are kind of the spectator, but you're not just watching by the wayside. You establish a genuine connection with the character, and actually in the third act, your character almost kind of takes a leap of faith with I've seen this film with Eric, with Carla Aquino's character, and kind of goes with him on the same page. What is the challenge of having the side of character who does not have the main arc of the film, but yet is so substantial in making us feel or even empathizing with the main character? Like, they complement each other.
I think in my 36 years of existence, okay, age reveal. In my 36 years of experience, I've learned so much about of extending kindness whenever possible. And of course, with kindness comes patience. Patience comes when it comes like genuine. concern and care for other people. This person, Eric, the character, is clearly in need of help, and I don't know what kind. It saddens me that we're growing up in a world where we question moments of helplessness. That unless it's something that we understand, like unless we have to justify why people feel helpless before we even decide to help. I think that that's one of the beautiful experiences that they have in this film. I guess it was an exercise of humanity. A lot of people would say that Carlo or Rosalinda's Eric's mom, the characters are unrealistic. But are they? I mean, maybe it has become realistic as as humanity has quote unquote progressed. But isn't that how we should be really? Like that should be our reality. It doesn't take. We don't need to understand something, or we don't have to easily give up on things just because we don't understand them. We all have different realities. Eric's reality is something that Carlo could not perceive firsthand, but his feeling of helplessness is real. I could identify that. So even if Carlo couldn't see what was causing distress to Eric, he should help however way possible. And that's really genuine kindness, I feel. I didn't I this isn't like humble brag. I don't want to say that when people say that, oh my gosh, you really portrayed like such a caring character successfully. And in my head, was I? Was it just a portrayal? Because I have my friends who have seen the film, who know me, like who really know who I am. They said, "Oh, you know what the things that Carlo was doing, I could totally picture you doing that in real life." And there's just so much heart in this film that isn't pretentious. There's hardly any pretension in it, and it's not. And I'm not just talking about like the topic or like how we just want to give a voice to the voiceless. We're also trying to reframe, I guess, the behavior of those who have the voice. Eric's character, he has inabilities, and Carlo and Rosalinda are able. So, what are those people who are able? What can they do? Right. So, yeah, I don't know if I answered the question, but basically, yeah, I don't feel like it was that big of a challenge for me because it's just one of the things that I think and I'm trying to emulate in my life is just to be really more human and be more kind, be more helpful.
Yeah, that is really beautifully said, and it comes across in the film. Even before scene under the table, midway in the film, like there is already this strong connection that is evident in these two characters. And when I was watching it, I didn't know if it came from a personal experience, but I was thinking either this is such a personal story or the storyteller is just so empathetic to these characters that even when, especially in the case of Eric, that he's experiencing trauma, it never really felt like he was being subjected by the film to so much pain. It felt like the film is always on his side. That's really beautifully done. And speaking of Rosalinda, like this is a lot of non-Filipino fans. This that we've been waiting for what Miss Dolly de Leon's gonna do post Best Picture nominee Triangle of Sadness. And she's giving she's given us four films this year, and this one is the one that would actually brought her back to awards conversation because this film is being submitted to the Oscars. So like by by default, like she's back in this season, like, and people are excited to see like, oh, she's done something new. She's like a follow up to Triangle of Sadness. How did she come into this project? Was it before Triangle of Sadness or after?
After.
After.
Actually, I met her right after, I think right after Cannes. when she
Mm-hmm.
got home. There was no Oscar buzz yet, but
Mm-hmm.
I talked to her, and then because I saw Folklore, the episode with Eric
Yeah.
Mati, that she was amazing
Yes.
in that episode. And then yeah, we talked, and then she was the first one to do the dubbing, because she was also part of the flashbacks. She came after Triangle of Sadness, but before, I think before A Very Good Girl.
Okay. I see. And so this was. I'm trying to imagine when was this was filmed when.
It was filmed November 2022.
Uh-huh. So like around also like the release of Triangle of Sadness in the US. Okay.
Mhm.
Um yeah, and this is quite, it's also a supporting role, but it is, I was a while ago I was thinking of the words because she's like the burst of joy in this film. But she's not a disruption to the tone. Like it's not funny, it's more like whimsic, heartwarmingly whimsical. How did you make sure that with the nature of, because I think, or please tell me if you disagree. It's fine. We're a
So,
democratic country. Like these performances are kind of in different wavelengths,
mhm.
but somehow when they're together on the screen, there's just magic.
Thank
How
you.
did you how did you make it work?
Probably because I grew up with this kind of characters in my family. Rosalinda is patterned after my mom. She's kind of like that. She jokes a lot of time, but her jokes or her way of showing that she cares, oddly. But I know that in my head that since this I know these characters and I've met them, and I just I know that if I'll be in one room with this kind of characters, it will be a riot. So it, I think that's my motivation when I was doing the characterization. So I was thinking of real people and drawing influences from them, and thinking if this kind of characteristic from this character would gel with other characters. Actually, one of the reasons why we talked to Gio to be part of the project was I know that Gio would bring a certain level of warmth to the character of Carlo, which he did beautifully. So yeah,
Yeah.
did,
And
did I answer?
yeah. Yes, and I completely agree that there is a warmth that is visceral. It sometimes you feel when the film is phoning it in terms of making something heartwarming. This one is not the case. In this one, even if it goes into darker territories, you feel actually the love that the characters have for each other. I mean, even with, because we are seeing the film through the lens of Eric, and who is struggling to even receive what the other characters are giving, which is caused by the long term effects of that trauma.
Mhm.
These performances personify the love that he needs, but then they're also so humanized that they don't feel like they are just virtues incarnate. Also, one thing that strikes me is that a lot of the film is also told in Ilocano.
Mhm.
Just for quick context and other people and from other countries where most of filmmaking in the Philippines, the more mainstream ones are located in Manila, which
Yes,
means most of the filmmaking is done in Tagalog.
yes.
Uh, were there, I'm not even going to ask if why was it important. Were there any resistance for you to use, to have extensive use of Ilocano in this film?
No.
Or was it something that you knew when you were forming the story that it's gonna be a part of this film, and everyone along the way just embraced it?
Yeah, no, actually there was a resistance with the title because it's hard to pronounce. But the yeah, it being partly Ilocano, there was no resistance. When I wrote it, it was also written like I wrote that a part of it is going to be in Ilocos. So and there's going to be Ilocano characters.
I see. So, having these discussions of like the artists involved And I know that this was only done like in 4 days, right? 4 days.
Yeah, we shot in 4 days.
How's the experience of making this film in 4 days?
Okay. We shot actually. It was just the shooting. We did shoot for 4 days. That's we worked. I think that's last 2 days of November and first 2 days of December. So um, it was hard because we didn't have a lot of time, but that was the only time that the actors are all there. So that's why we picked those dates. If we pick a later date, then we will be more delayed. But those 4 days, I think it was meaty. While it we were doing one sequence after another, and luckily, Alvin Oiting, who is my assistant director, planned everything smoothly. I guess there wasn't that much of a problem. I mean, it's just tiring, but
Yeah.
but I feel tired after, but not during the shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, actually, I only slept like 5 hours at the maximum per day. But yeah, I was ecstatic all the time. I mean, every
Mm-hmm.
time I step on set, whenever I got, whenever we are rolling, I'm always on the set. I don't look that much on the monitor. I want to see the actors
Mm-hmm.
acting. I mean, I want to see it firsthand rather than on the screen. So
Mm-hmm.
it was a fun experience. I hope it was the same for Gio.
Yeah. Gio, can you chime in on that question?
Yes, of course it was. I mean, I'm surprised you didn't bring up the dancing on set because
Okay, yeah,
every time
they
we get
did.
asked, every time we get asked questions about the shooting process, Carlo would always bring it up because I think that's my process whenever I'm on set. Like I can't be idle. So yes, we were shooting scene after scene, but while waiting for setup, I try to still be on my toes. So like, fortunately for me, it was very fun set filled with a lot of fun-loving people. So like in between takes, we would be singing or we would be dancing, and I think it was also a conscious effort to do that since we all knew the themes of the film were pretty dark. The topic was pretty dark, so it was good to also counter that with some lightness off camera, just so we don't fall into you know the deepest darkest abyss as we were going down the line shooting the sequences, right? But I was shocked that they only needed me for 10 days, and even more shocked when I found out we were only shooting for 4 days. And I was lucky that Carlo Aquino and Tita Dali were available during that for the 4 days that we had, because I was only there for the first 2 days because I had to fly out the day after the second day. And I think it was Tita Dali had just flown in from
Mm,
the US. So it was just a serendipitous moment where, oh my gosh, there is actually a common time frame that these three people are available. So fortunately, my schedule fit perfectly into that time frame. It was my first time having. This is my first time working with Carl, so I wasn't sure how he was gonna be on set, but Carl and Alvin were very hands on. All the things that I was afraid I wouldn't understand how to do when acting for an animation, for an animated film, they were there. They were ready to answer any questions and to explain exactly how things should be done. So yeah, everything was it was done smoothly,
yeah,
and we didn't shoot for more than 12 hours a day.
no, we didn't.
We did it, so that was good.
That's the best thing I heard, that you didn't shoot for more than 12 days, 12 hours.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, knowing from
we
set
we
experience.
we stuck to a specific time,
Yeah.
and
And
I
yeah.
try to collaborate well with the actors, build rapport or what. And if they have suggestions to the scenes, I try to think through it if it's gonna work. I remember there's this one scene where Carlo, the character, was shooting the robots. So he was, I think, the first take, Gio was serious. He was shooting like bam, bam, and then in between
Okay, you
takes,
may share. You may share. I'll allow it.
in the between one take, go ahead, Gio.
No, I think it was because while they were in between takes, it was like a gag. It was a joke that Alwyn and I were making. Like I there was no bang bang sound in the first couple of takes, and then Alwyn and I were joking. Oh, is this how I should be shooting? Bang, bang, bang. And Carl saw it and he was like, "Oh, I like it. We should keep that." So that's why in the final cut of the film, there was
Yeah,
a
that was
I
included.
was making bang bang noises.
I thought that was such a like a touching detail because it was like Carlo was like trying to be on the same page as Eric. So yeah, there's the beauty of collaboration with artists. And speaking of artists, like I would like want to know like who are the artists or like the artworks or films or anything that inspired you, not just with this film, but in life. You know, Carl and Gia can go together.
Ooh, inspire me. Actually, I like the works of Richard Linklater. I'm a big fan. But I also am a big fan of Isao Takahata, Hayao Miyazaki, and who's that? Michael Haneke. Uh, I love their works. So, Gio, how about you?
Mm.
Oh,
Artists.
I'm like drowning in all the different film names that you just mentioned. I was just gonna say Beyonce and I stopped there. No. I think I'm a huge fan artists who are very good storytellers because that's what I aspire to be like in all the different things that I'm doing in performing arts, like acting in theater, acting in film, even as a choreographer. I think stories, it's the heart of it all. So being an effective storyteller is very important to me. And yeah, people might think that I'm just jumping on the bandwagon and saying I love Beyonce just because she's like one of the biggest pop stars of our generation. It's not just that. She's a really good storyteller. I like that whenever she
Yeah.
puts together a performance, there has to be a story. That it's not just for show, it's not just for spectacle. There always has to be something deeper. So yeah, her Barbara Streisand, that woman. Can I get any gayer? No, but like Barbara Streisand, Lady Gaga,
Share.
all these gay
Share.
icons, they are icons for a reason because they're amazing storytellers. And isn't that what every member of this community is? Having successful and very effective storytellers to tell our story. So those are my favorites. Those are the artists that I
I
look up.
agree. I agree with Beyonce and Lady Gaga.
Not
They're
with Barbara
What
Stars.
about Barbara
Bar-
Streisand?
well, I haven't seen that much, but I'm a fan of Funny Girl.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yes.
so and Stars Born is okay, but but Funny Girl
Funny
was really
girl.
good.
Careful.
So
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I have also seen Funny Girl. I think when I was like 13, 14. Look what happened to me. So I I do want to ask because it's like as I have researched like you've like this film employed like 90 animators in
yeah.
making this film, and how long was the animation process to complete
Actually,
final product?
we started. There was a part of the team that was already working November 2022. So
Mm.
probably took us around 7 to 8 months to finish the whole animation because around that time and before the shoot the animatics and the storyboards were all done, So I collaborated with the editor and with the DOP to get those done ahead of time, so that I have guides to send to the animator. So before shooting, the 3D designer who did the backgrounds was already working. Was already doing 3D models and mock-ups. So yeah, so around 7 to 8, probably 9 months, 7 to 9 months of animation. And I think this is the longest year of my life. We had an offline cut around the end of December last year, so we had to start animating around the rotoscoping parts. We have to start that around January. So it was several months of me talking to a lot of people, checking a lot of work, and then giving them scenes to work on. And then, on parallel with that, I had to talk to sound and then to music. So, did I feel tired? Yeah, yeah, definitely. But it was a good feeling getting it done.
Mhm. Mhm. And
I want
you
to
know,
speak on
yeah,
your
go ahead.
behalf because it's true. He really got tired. I think it it's important to know this. So all of our animators are actually still students. So you have to understand these kids who are amazing, by the way. These kids have schoolwork to do it during the day. So some of them work on the frames in the middle of the night, which meant Carl had to stay up in the middle of the night to to check their work. So there were
Yeah.
months that Carl and I would be chatting, and he's like, he hasn't slept yet because he had to stay up all night checking all the frames, and then on top of that is a day job. So
Yeah.
it's just, I don't know how he survived. He did get sick a couple of times in 8 months that the film they were putting together the film. It, I was just happy he's still alive, and now he's taking good care of himself. Aren't you?
Yeah,
You
I
should
am.
be.
Yeah, stay strong, Carl. Um, and I know as someone who has a friend who really does animation, and that's her choice of visual form in film. I do know that it is exhausting. I do not even want to imagine. So I do want to ask though, just like this might be like a loaded question, but like in your experience or in your perspective, like where are we now in terms of the animation industry in the Philippines? Because like we've seen more recently, like there are more works that are being brought to the mainstream because there's always been animators here in the
Mhm.
country. But where are we now?
I think
And
that
yeah.
we have a lot of animators here in the Philippines. It just so happens that we do not have a lot of content for animated films or series, or well, we have a lot of short films. So for films and for series, I think the problem also is with those people who give funding to films. When they see that it's animation, it's going to be a risk right ahead, because we all know that it takes a lot of time to finish it. So, but we have a lot of great talents here in the Philippines, but just so happen that we are working on content from different countries. So I think that's the problem. The good thing is there's I think it is starting. I mean, the directors and the writers for original Filipino content of for animation is there. We have Trece, we also have Avid Longoren, who are making animated films here in the Philippines. So, and series here in the Philippines. So I think we're starting to go to a place where we could probably in the future create more films, animated films, rather than now where it's just one. One, we're lucky if we get one animated feature film per year.
Mm-hmm. Another summation, another loaded question. Like, and you could also chime in here. In terms of like, how is Philippine cinema now? Because I think for a lot of people, we're still trying to get back. I think we're kind
Mm,
of delayed in terms of getting back into the theaters, watching movies again, especially locally produced films. But 2023 has shown much more like I think strides in terms of audience engagement, like wanting to go back. Because I think in the first films that were released in cinemas, there was a lot of hesitation,
mhm.
um, understandably. But where are we now in terms of Philippine cinema? Because I also don't have an idea.
Mm. The thing is, we keep on creating actually really good films, but in terms of people going back to the cinema, it's a different thing. I guess we have grown accustomed to. I mean, since the start of the streaming services, we are more prone to just watching films there or waiting for films to arrive there.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the accessibility of the streaming apps and websites, I think the Filipinos latch onto that really hardly rather than going back to the cinema. But if there is a film that gathers the interest of the Filipinos, they go back to the cinema. I'll just make an example, but this feels like a brag. But we did a short 2 week run of the film The Missing in Cinema 76, and it's a micro cinema here in the Philippines. It doesn't have a lot of seats, but there are actually a majority of the time that we have well, not majority, I guess more than half of the screenings are all sold out. Probably because they were interested or they were curious to see an animated film that is going to represent the Philippines. That's our marketing for the film. We were the first animated film from the Philippines to be submitted for Academy Awards for international feature category. In terms of going back to the cinema, yeah, I guess it's just a matter of showing the right films and the right content. I remember 2021 they 2021 or 2022 they showed the remastered version of In the Mood for Love
Mm-hmm.
in cinema, and the
I heard.
cinema was jam packed. I mean, I was sitting at the way back and then way at the corner of the cinema. But I I mean it's a niche uh, thing. I mean, but people flock to see that because I mean it's how rare is it to see a Wong Kar Wai film on the cinema? Much so a masterpiece. So
Mhm.
how about you, Gio?
Yeah.
I can't say that the situation is the same for theater. It's probably not because you can't experience theater unless you come to the theater. That's why when we did our screenings in Cinema 76, Carl and I would be there almost every single day because I said it. Well, for one, it was I think also partly out of responsibility and accountability because we know how deep the emotion we get after watching the film, and we just thought maybe if we were there to offer, a pat on the back or like at least to ask people how they felt and tell them that if they have any to talk to, so they could process their feelings, that it would help. It's that kind of, I think that's kind of the education process that I'm talking about. Um, we have to maybe in film we have to take that kind of responsibility also that when we put out certain stories through cinema, that we open up space to discuss with our viewers what they thought, what they felt, and what they saw. Because I think it helped us a lot when we were popping up in Cinema 76. Because there were people who, after talking to us, said, "Oh, thank you for clearing that up. Now I know what to tell my friends so I can convince them to watch." Or, I don't know. I know it's a smaller screening space, but I think that could be a step. I don't know how exactly filmmakers could take that on, or how producers could take that on. But there's nothing to be lost. I think if we just try it, because we want cinema to survive, and for things to survive, they have to be understood. They have to be learned. They have to inspire people to continue that kind of that craft.
Yeah, it takes a lot for, I don't know, art to not just survive but to really thrive and be alive. And we're really hoping for, and as someone who graduated film, so I would love to see that where it becomes really something alive and we could sustain. We don't always say, we don't just I think I've been hearing this since I was a kid. Let's support Philippine films. Like, I would want for a day when filmmakers don't need to say that anymore, that it just thrives, that there is a market, that the environment and the situation is conducive for all kinds of artists and arts to survive. And that would entail, I don't know, more funding, like I said, more funding, not just funding but distribution, exhibition, and I don't know, maybe protecting freedom of expression, I guess. But all of those things would build up into an environment where there is this there's this industry of the arts that would just, I don't know, strengthen, I guess, the Filipino identity. Hopefully one day, when, because that's like art is the kind of like the gateway for many people. Like when people ask me, like when they don't know anything about Philippine cinema, like what are the films that I would suggest? So they turn to the arts to get to know the countries that they cannot go to yet. So I would love to see a time, hopefully, I don't know, within the next 5 years, where like, oh yeah, we have this. People normally go to the cinemas to watch local films, and it's not like it's a special thing. Like, I do this. Like, no, people just do it. And with that being said, the engagement that you guys had for the film, where you were like extensions of what the film was already extending to its viewers, like you were there in the screenings. I know that you when we I know, I just feel it, like when you were making this film, you were making something special. But when did it hit you that the buzz is building? Like, oh, people are talking. Did you ever have that moment that, mm,
Uh,
I don't know how to
I
transcribe that, but
I guess it's the first ever streaming at PICC. It usually the more responsive viewers in Cinemalaya attend the gala screenings, but there was this one screening. I think it's the second day of the festival. We had our first screening in PICC, and the the audience was very responsive and receptive to the film. So I think that was the moment that hit me that, oh, okay, we have something here.
mm.
Plus, we got the box office thing for Cinemalaya. So
Yeah.
I would like to add to what you were saying, Noel. I wish na the government could, uh, I guess, for something that would force the cinemas to show one Filipino film every week.
Yeah.
I wish we could do that.
Yeah. I wish to.
I think it's they do that in some countries. I'm not sure in
Yeah.
Korea. I think they do that there.
I think in Korea they have like a minimum even days where you can screen.
Mm.
Because for example, in my experience, like the buzz reached me. Like, have you seen IT? They didn't even say the full name. Have you seen IT? Like, oh, what is that? And then I have to go to KCC,
Mm.
and I'm in the province. I think also accessibility, because I think we live in a world we live in a world where you premiere like a big non-Filipino film here, they could take up all the screens. No one bats an eye. But here in the Philippines, you release a film, you have to fight for the first screening because you can get pulled out by the even in the first day. So like I said, it goes back
That's
to
true.
like help us help you kind of scenario, that if you want the Philippine cinema to thrive, maybe give us some help to help it thrive. I mean, the talent is here, and I mean, in speaking to two people who have given us this film, we have a talent here, but for the arts to really be a part of the common daily life of Filipinos and have this sustainable life, I think work needs to be done. And it's not just in the filmmakers and the film audiences side. But anyway, I do want to end by saying, thank you for this film. Because I didn't know what this film was about. And then I came out of it. You've given me the discussions that that, that I didn't know I needed, that people need. And we're manifesting this. The missing would be the third animated film to be nominated for international feature film. You have What's for Bashir 2008 and Flea
Mm.
in 2021, both powerful films, and The Missing fits perfectly in that list of powerful films that is using animation to tell stories that are so human. And yeah, so thank you so much for this film, really. I mean, not just for talking to me, but for this film. It's really a wonderful experience. And I'm really hoping that more people get to watch this.
Yeah, we hope so too.
Thank
So
you. Yes,
we're
absolutely.
trying to bring it outside of the Philippines. So, and yeah, more screenings to come.